You know that feeling, right? You ask an AI a totally normal, simple question, and you get back that robotic, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It is so frustrating. It feels like in the race to make AI super safe, we've accidentally made it, well, a little too scared of its own shadow. Today, we're going to peek inside the AI's mind to see why this is happening, and more importantly, how some really clever researchers are fixing it.
All right, so let's get right into it. This whole thing has a name. Researchers call it over-refusal, and it's basically what happens when a safety feature that's meant to be helpful just goes a little too far.
And this slide just captures the problem perfectly. I mean, look at these examples. You're asking for something simple, like sentiment analysis. The text has some scary words, sure, but the correct answer is just negative. That's it. But nope, the AI freaks out and refuses. Same thing with translation. You're not asking it how to do something bad, you're just asking it to translate the words. But it gets stuck. So that's the big question, isn't it? How can these incredibly powerful models that can write code and poetry get so easily tripped up by something that a human would understand in a second? Why does it fixate on a few bad words instead of understanding the harmless task you're asking it to do? So let's put a name to this. The official term is over-refusal, and the keyword here is benign. This isn't about stopping genuinely dangerous requests. This is about the AI shutting down perfectly okay instructions just because they happen to contain a keyword that sets off a false alarm. It's a huge problem that makes these tools way less useful. To figure out how to stop these false alarms, researchers had to go deep. I mean, really deep. They had to find a way to follow an AI's thought process from the moment a prompt goes in to the moment an answer comes out. You can kind of think of an AI model as this giant layered network. When you give it a prompt, the information gets processed through each layer, changing a little bit at every step. Well, there's this field called mechanistic interpretability, which is basically a toolkit for watching this happen in real time. It lets scientists follow a single thought as it journeys through the network. And this is a brilliant way to visualize it. Imagine all those internal states of the AI as a giant, invisible map. Every single request you make carves its own unique path or trajectory through that map. A green path might lead to a helpful answer, while a red path leads straight to a refusal. The big mystery is, what makes it choose one path over the other? And this is where it gets really cool. Once you can see all these individual trails, you can zoom out and look for bigger patterns. You can start to see how they cluster together. The researchers call these clusters constellations, and finding them led to a massive aha moment. So this was the million-dollar question. What's the main organizing principle inside the AI's mind? Does it group thoughts together based on the content it's seeing, harmful stuff over here and safe stuff over there? Or does it group them based on the job it's being asked to do, like translation thoughts are in one corner and analysis thoughts are in another? And the answer is, wow, it's just so clear on this slide. Look, on the left, when they color code the thought paths by the type of text, it's a complete mess, just a chaotic jumble. But on the right, look at that. When they color the exact same data by the intended task, translation, sentiment analysis, whatever, these beautiful, clean, distinct clusters just pop right out. Those are the thought constellations. This quote from the paper just nails it. The most important thing for an LLM isn't the words themselves, it's the job it's been asked to do. The task is king, and realizing this wasn't just interesting, it was the key that unlocked the entire solution. So think about it. If you can map out an AI's mind and you can see the different roads it takes for different tasks, well, what if you could give it a little GPS? What if you could gently nudge it back on course when it starts to veer off toward one of those unnecessary refusal dead ends? Well, that's exactly what SafeConstellations does. Seriously, think of it just like a GPS for the AI's thoughts running in real time. This happens during inference, which means it's working as the AI is generating its response. It watches the path the thought is taking, and if it sees it heading for a refusal when it's supposed to be doing a perfectly safe task, it gives it a tiny little course correction. And it breaks down into 4 really simple steps. First, it identifies the task. Is this a translation, an analysis? Okay, got it. Second, it tracks that thought's trajectory through the model. Third, using that map of constellations it already has, it predicts, this path is heading toward a refusal. And finally, if a refusal looks likely, it applies a tiny calculated nudge to steer the AI back toward the known good pathway for that specific task. It's such an elegant idea, right? But the big question is always the same. Does it actually work? Well, let's take a look at the results because they are pretty staggering. Get this, 73%. In their best case tests, the SafeConstellations method slashed over refusals by up to 73%. That is a massive, massive drop. That's the difference between an AI that's frustratingly unhelpful and one that's actually a useful partner. And this table right here shows you exactly what that 73% looks like. Before steering, the AI just throws its hands up. Can't do it. After that gentle nudge, it does the job perfectly. It completes the benign task, and sometimes even adds helpful context. It's doing what you actually asked it to do. And let's just zoom in on translation for a second, because this was a huge problem area for this particular model. The baseline refusal rate was almost 47%. That's nearly a coin flip on whether it would work or not. With SafeConstellations active, that rate plummets all the way down to under 9%. That's not just an improvement, it's a game changer. Now here's the kicker, and this is maybe the most important part. You might worry that messing with the AI's thoughts could break something else, right? But they tested it. They ran it through all the standard benchmarks, and they found zero drop in its general performance. This steering is so precise, it's like a tiny surgical procedure that fixes the one problem without causing any other harm.
So, what's the bottom line here? Well, we've learned that AI over-refusal isn't just random, it's highly dependent on the task. We've also learned that we can actually map these internal thought patterns, and because we can map them, we can gently steer them to be more helpful. This whole thing makes AI not just safer, but smarter and a heck of a lot more useful.
Which really leaves us with one last huge question. For the first time, we basically have a GPS for an AI's mind. We can guide its internal process toward better outcomes. So now that we can do that, what else could we teach them? What other behaviors could we refine now that we have a map to their thoughts?